topic because it's very relevant, I think, to the hundreds and thousands of people, well, at least hundreds, on waiting lists all around the world looking for organs. And personally very relevant because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be one of those people in the not too distant future. Right? So what we said, today we're going to say on the topic that we will legalize the sale of organs for profit. I'm going to talk about the need, the overwhelming need for us to introduce more organs for the people who need those organs. I'm going to tell you how that's going to happen. And I'm going to talk about individual autonomy, why people have the right to do this, and why it's fair for them to do this for compensation, why it's fair for them to get paid. My second speaker, the charming, impeccably dressed Takeshi, will talk about the black market in the status quo and why that's a terrible thing and how this is the only way we can deal with the black market. And we'll talk about family dynamics and how this creates unfair prejudice when people, as one person in the family needs an organ and others then are forced to do it. So, what are we talking about? We're talking about anybody has the right to sell an organ. And we're going to limit this initially to organs which you can sell and still keep living. So maybe your kidney, one kidney, a liver, an arm, maybe your eyes, your ears, whichever part of your organ someone wants to buy for presumably a medical procedure, not so they can eat it or something like that, right? Not yet, Chris. How this is going to work is we're going to set up exchanges. So companies or institutions that work as an exchange for organs. So if somebody wants to sell their organ, they would go up to this exchange and they would personally register. And they'd say, I want to sell this part or that part. And then they would register themselves. They would get their health checked out. They would get evaluated to make sure they're not insane. They would make sure they're not like on drugs or have some kind of disease. And then this exchange would then list all these organs, blood type and DNA, and match with other hospitals, right? And they would have maybe a base price, a price that can also increase based on a sudden surge in demand for those organs. Right? And what the point of the exchange is to ensure that people fully choose, they're fully rational, and to make that organ available to hospitals around the world who want one. So someone who needs an organ at a hospital, that hospital will contact an exchange, and if they find an organ that matches, they would have a procedure, and then the organ will be transferred. Yes, Mr. Trout.
Logan, just to be clear, you're happy with someone blinding themselves just so a rich person can stop having to wear glasses?
We're pretty sure if someone wants to give up both of their eyes in order to improve their life in some other way, if they think the health or happiness of my family, if I can give one of my eyes or both of my eyes to ensure that my mother or my father continues living, you have to pay for medical help, then I think that's fully their choice to make. Because what happens, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, I'll cut to this now. What happens in the status quo is that we're fully happy for people to give their organs to family members, and even if that means them risking their lives, right? So if my mom's sick and needs a kidney, I can give her my kidney. But if my mom has a heart attack and I can't pay for the heart operation, I can't give her my kidney, that's pointless. But if I can sell my kidney in order to pay for that, we think that's perfectly fine. Why is that unfair? I'm going to extend this idea and talk about how you can improve your life on other areas too. So let's move then into this notion of need. We think it's pretty obvious that there is a huge need for organs, right? People die all the time because they can't get an organ. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, is the need for healthy organs and the organs that match. The options that we have, the alternatives in the status quo, are voluntary organ donation, or having a mandatory opt-out system like they do in authoritarian countries like Singapore, or developing artificial organs or using animal organs, which we say is a technology with wonderful potential, but is nowhere near any form of implementation. Plus, it's a little bit weird to have a pig heart in your heart. But on voluntary organ donation and mandatory opt-out system, we think those things are wonderful, but they haven't really reached the kind of mass volume of organs that we actually need. And another problem is, in both of those systems, people only donate organs when they die. And that either happens when you're really, really old, or you get smashed in a car accident, which means not a lot of those organs end up being very useful anyway. So what happens is you don't have a lot of available organs. The only way people really get organs now, the number one way, is they get it from friends or family members who give an organ to that individual when they need one. So we say the only way you're really going to get these organs is if you encourage people to give up organs for people they do not know. And there is and I doubt it's going to be very difficult to persuade anybody in this room to do that. And we think it's unfair to persuade people to give up an organ to endanger the rest of their life for somebody they do not know for any form of compensation. So we think you need a financial incentive to do so. And that moves into my second argumentation of why it's right to get a financial incentive because of bodily autonomy. Firstly, we say people have a right to do this. We think people are the complete owners of their entire body, of every single part of it, ladies and gentlemen, and you can do anything that you want with your body. As long as you're not, harming somebody else. And we think people have the right to harm themselves. We regularly allow people to drink and smoke and engage in, come to JPDU Spring Seminars and torture themselves. I think that's absolutely acceptable on any level, right? To engage in extreme sports, etc., etc. We also think it's fair and it's informed. The acceptable science that organ donation is now. If I go up and I say to someone, I'm donating my organ, the doctor can fully and clearly explain to me what's going to happen. This is not some strange thing. I will know whether or not what are my chances of likelihood of continuing. I will have a whole list of drugs available to me that can help me continue. I will have a perfectly normal, healthy life, a chance to continue. No thanks, mate. And we think you can estimate all those consequences and you can live a fairly happy and normal life. So the choice that someone is making when they give up their organ, we say something that's completely fair, is their choice to make, and is fully informed. Secondly, we say it's fair to get compensation. As I alluded with the question in response to Chris' point of information, we give people the right to give up their organ to help someone else. And we say if it's about getting money to help someone else, we think that analogy, that parallel applies. But even if it's about to help yourself? If I can't get the money, if I can't get a loan to study, or if I'm poor, or if I just want to have more money, why should I not have the right to sell my organ? The same way that I could sell my body by working in a coal mine, the same way that I could take a very dangerous job, the same way I could be like an extreme athlete, a professional snowboarder who breaks my bones once a week, right? I think all those things are fully applicable and should apply in this situation itself. We don't think if the opposition wants to get up and say, all these poor people are going to do it, we think it's patronizing to say, only poor people are going to do it, or poor people do not have the ability to rationalize how they want to improve their lives. And we think this is a fully fair choice to make for somebody to improve their lives for all those reasons, because it helps everybody else, but because it's fair, and because it helps you, we're fully proud to support the sale of organs and profits.